Anytime I do these prepping videos, I try to do, in my opinion, and what I plan for are worst case scenarios. I figure if we can make it through the worst case, and anything before that should be able to just slide on through. And of course, I take requests when it comes to doing the videos. And I'm going to do a series. This will be part 1 on this request here about what to do when you're bored and lights go out. And the reason why this isn't an easy question because when the lights go out permanently, there's no longer going to be any boredom. I think the problem is going to be getting your mind off kind of what's going on around you, but mainly to stop the deep, dark depression that is going to overwhelm you and your family. So stand by. My theory is it's not going to be about boredom. It's going to be about trying to keep depression away. And I've got a lot of ideas out. I've got a lot of ideas going through my head. Hard to get in 60 seconds. But anyway, in part 3, we're going to focus on the children first because their anxiety is going to skyrocket once there's no more TV, once there's no more electronic games, nothing like that. And what we can do to entertain them, because when our anxiety spikes, theirs will also, because they'll feed off of us. Still, the first thing you got to do before this ever happens, and God forbid it never does, but they need to get used to the dark. Most children hate dark. They hate being in pitch blackness, but we've got to get them used to it. The following is a little trick my father did for me and my siblings, and I passed it to my children as well. It's in a text. It's an actual conversation my daughter had with some friends on Facebook, and I broke in there. So have a little fun with it. I'm going to post it here. You might want to pause it on each page just to read it and then go on from there. Crayons, construction paper, white print, just regular white printing paper, and scissors. Lots of paper, lots of crayons, because especially crayons can be used for coloring, making marks, writing, and can be used as candles. One large crayon will burn for half an hour. When you're buying all this stuff, the paper, the crayons, things that you want to keep children busy with after an EMP, the last thing I want you to do is just not have anywhere to put all this stuff. Throw it in the toy box, in a drawer somewhere. Anytime you're stocking up with anything, you need an organized place to put it. And if you're going to buy a lot of crayons, a lot of activities for the kids, board games, things like that, buy also some of those plastic totes or some type of container to put these things in. In a storm, you can slide them under your beds, under your furniture like couches, your end tables. But always have a place to pack this stuff into and a place to take the box or whatever the storage container and have a place to put it. You don't want to become a hoarder. Right? I did an EMP series a while back about things that we're going to have to get used to. And we're going to have to change our way of teaching. Think about all the information you get off the internet. Recipes, carpentry, gardening, security, the list goes on. The internet is the world's largest library. What happens if tomorrow all of it gets wiped out and we lose all that information? Locate a couple of used bookstores and good thrift stores and start yourself an in-home library. Okay, look for books for all the lost information that you would no longer have. Old books especially, herbal pharmacy, check that out. Book of gardening wisdom, proven home remedies and natural healing secrets, household hints, handy tips. Start yourself an in-home library with all the information you think that you may need if the internet should ever just poof, go away. So what you're going to need to do, starting now, is build a library in your house. And I'm not talking about shelves along your wall if you don't have room. If you don't have any place to keep the books, put them in plastic tubs, keep them underneath beds, in the closets, things like that. And take the time now. Don't buy any crap that can only be used after an EMP, because we're hoping there is never one around. But books you can use now. And talking about, because the nights are going to get boring, they're going to get long, that's the time to teach your family. Discussing the events after an EMP, it doesn't matter how prepared we are, and I'm including myself, we're never actually prepared for something that devastating. But we can be a little more prepared just in case. Practice makes perfect. We're damn near close to it. And discussing what we can do after an EMP when sun goes down early and it's nighttime, it'd be a perfect time to get the family together and start teaching things, gardening, snares, you name it, something that'll help us to survive this new world. But the thing is, you don't want to wait until after an event, an EMP, or whatever it is to start this stuff. You want to start now. I've hit on this in a few videos before, and I'll do it again here and for newcomers. And that is, you're going to need to practice living in the dark. Yes, some of you probably get a lot of practice when your lights go out, things like that. But I think the problem with that is you're not preparing for it. What we want to do is we want to prepare for these lights out scenarios. What you want to do is you want to get your family together and explain to them we need to start, getting involved with learning how to survive if the lights go out. And what you want to do, my wife and I do it occasionally, is we shut the electricity off in our house from Friday evening till Sunday evening or sometimes Monday morning. And we make sure everything is in place before we do that. Make sure we have candles, flashlight, write down on our notepads exactly what we need to go those 2 or 3 days, whatever you want to call them, without electricity, get everything in place, and get your family involved and ready for it as well. Once you have all that in place, there's always going to be something you've forgotten, and that's where practicing this comes in handy. You've got your notebook there. You're going to, let me get out of the sun here. You want to write down the things that you probably need for making it through these 3 or 4 days, and make sure you have those for the next time you practice it. But what you want to do is make sure each time you practice this, you extend it a little longer. Now, I know it's not feasible for a lot of us to go a week without electricity. And let me remind you, don't unplug your refrigerator. Okay, leave that plugged in. I don't want to ruin food. But if you're prepared to go, 2 or 3 days without electricity, you just add to those supplies as you go. So that, you add to another 2 or 3 days worth of supplies, and eventually you build all that up. But you've got to practice it. You've got to get the family involved, and everybody has to have an input. Now, another reason it's so important to get the whole family involved, especially children, and keeping notes when you're practicing this lights out scenario, because they will have tons of ideas during this time of what they wish they had. The games, drawing pads. You will come up with an unbelievable list of preparations to have on hand next time. Also, there's a big difference in practicing for this and just being surprised when you do lose electricity for a few hours or a few days, because you're always anticipating the electricity to come back on. And so you really don't plan ahead the next time. This is why we practice it, because God forbid the grid or an EMP should hit, electricity won't be coming back on anytime soon, and that's what we're preparing for mentally as well. Watch this sort of video I had, I put up a while back on collecting electronic knowledge and books. Why we're saving spare phones and tablets. We are using these tablets and extra phones to store away information we're going to need. Take a look at this. This is one of my phones out of the Faraday cage. I have just over 1,000 books on here. What does all that information consist of? You name it. Everything to do with prepping, survival, how to live off the land, how to build things, how to build homes from scratch, how to build log cabins. The list goes on and on and on. This is knowledge that's going to be totally gone if we get an EMP. But it will remain in the devices in a Faraday cage, so God forbid it should ever come down to that, we have that information. It's not lost. Most of all this information is free. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Kindle, download all this information. Look at things that knowledge that you're going to need should an EMP or something like that happen. Other ways you can gather knowledge right here. Build you a scrapbook with that knowledge. This here, you got to know your shit in order to teach your shit. All right? You need to start learning a lot of this now. And even if you can't, all this information you have after an EMP is not only knowledge, it's power. Knowledge is power because you can sell it, you can barter it. You've got control over it because so many more people may not have it. So it will give you and your family something to do to survive. You'll continue to being busy because you're teaching yourselves the old ways, the skills that we forgot. So also you're going to need other deterrents to fight depression during this time. So so many people tell you to stock up on the best foods, the most healthiest foods. I'm telling you, I've told you before, stock up on your comfort foods as well. Sugary treats, candy for the kids. You want to stock up on lots of that stuff if they're not going to be making them anymore. There's going to be a lot of depressing nights, and your comfort foods will come to the rescue. Different things, make sure you keep in your first aid kit, your medicine cabinets that can also help with depression. Look up different types of herbs and things like that you can do, exercises that you're going to need to know all this and get all this together after an EMP. So I hope all this helps. I'm going to end the series here. If anybody comes up with any more ideas, we'll just continue to add to it. Until then, appreciate all of you watching, participating, and as always, have a great night.